Brian Baldinger, of course, starting the show with us on Wednesdays alongside diehard Blackhawks fan Greg Braggs. I am your handy dandy.
1-0, baby. I know you're excited, Baldy. The Connor Bedard season has begun.
No, I can't believe they dropped the puck already, man. Like, it's on. So, like, all the puck gods out there, enjoy it. You know, it'll be here for another year. But, yes, I think they finally dropped it.
Brian, the guy that I'm sitting next to, didn't like the Blackhawks during their cup runs, the three of them, because he thought that everybody in Chicago became a bandwagon fan. And so now he's going out on Twitter telling everybody that he's officially cleared himself to be a Hawks fan. and
starting on the ground floor is a little more respect in that.
I mean, and I appreciate the non-bandwagon fans out there that stick through the tough times, but I'm a little exhausted by my partner.
Didn't the Blackhawks beat the Flyers in 2010?
They did.
I mean, I live in Philly. Like, that one hurt. Like, I had to leave the country. You know, like, I talked a lot of junk before that Stanley Cup final, and I literally had to leave the country because I left a trail of venom.
Well,
talking about Blackhawks.
The Eagles have given us plenty of heartbreak, so I think we owed you one.
You mean like the double doink?
Yeah, like that one, or the early 2000 with Mike Brown.
The one game.
Yeah.
Yes.
If they had only turned Trubisky loose earlier, we could have had the double doink game. But all right, story for another time.
Hey, we had the Fog Bowl.
Yeah, well, that's true. We did have the Fog Bowl, and that was sweet. That was the end of the 885 Bear run. We snuck one more out. All right, Baldy, I spent a ton of time watching your videos today, and we're getting ready for Minnesota, so I want to get into that. But we titled the show today.
Yeah.
Admittedly, searching for a title a little bit going into the day, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. Have the Bears turned the corner? Now, I know we've got one win, so it's ridiculous basically to ask that question, but the reason why I gave myself permission to ask it is because we have had 2 straight weeks where the offense took a major step, and we saw defense getting pressure last week. So if we want to lean into positivity, perhaps a little bit ahead of the curve, like if we win this week, now there will be a whole, see, the Bears have got it. So I'm asking the question today, from your perspective, watching what's happened, is that way too tall to say they've turned some proverbial corner here?
No, it's not. It's not too tall. I mean, they've played good football the last 2 weeks. After the debacle against Kansas City, which was about as bad as it gets. But yes, it looks like they've tightened things up defensively. They've blitzed more. They've challenged receivers, even in their zone coverage. They've tightened it up. I mean, all the zones become man at some point. You gotta plaster somebody and make the throw more difficult. So they've done all that on that side. I thought, seeing Tevin Jenkins in there at left guard was important. He looked good in there at left guard. And the offense line, even with the loss of Lucas Patrick during the game, but Cody came in, they played really well up front. And they ran the ball really good, and obviously the touchdowns were the touchdowns. But, I mean, it looks like it has. Now, they've had 10 days to get ready, and you're at home against a struggling team without their best player. So, everybody said, well, they should win. Well, all right. I mean, 3 weeks ago, we thought the Bears might be the worst team in football. So, you got to – it's a gradual process. If you're going in the right direction, you got to stack. You got to stack positivity. You got to stack wins. You got to start stacking for the players to really believe. On the outside, we can say whatever we want to say. We're fans. But on the inside Hallis Hall, the players got to feel it, and that's what a win this week can do. And, it should be classic black and blue division game, to be honest with you.
I mean, you mentioned Tevin and we've talked a lot about Darnell Wright with you and how impressed we've been. But to me, Larry Borom really stood out. And I've seen some mixed opinions on how his day went, but all I know is, like, my expectations aren't the same with him as they are for Darnell Wright. I'm not trying to sell him short, but at the same time, when I'm seeing a clean pocket, and I'm seeing Larry Borom, who's been much maligned by Bears fans for the last few years, including myself, and I see a guy that's taking a one-on-one with a great pass rusher and standing him up, and it opens up the door for Justin Fields to throw some touchdowns. I got to give him a lot of credit for the game he had on Thursday.
I agree. Look, I mean, they invest. You can put Chase Young in any category you want to put him in. He's playing better football this year than he's played since his rookie year. He made a couple plays. And that's it. Like, they put a lot of resources in their defensive front, and they didn't change the game. They didn't affect the game. The Bears ran the ball as well as they run it all year. I mean, legitimate runs. Khalil looked really good in the game, and they protected the quarterback really well. So I agree with you. I think, Larry stood tall, and you can't ask for anything more from a guy that has been maligned, that's played right side, left side. He's the backup now, but, he's a starter when he's in there. So I thought as a group they played really well together.
So, all right. So there's a whole argument now going on in the chat of whether or not Larry Borum played well.
That's what I mean. It has been a total mixed bag on people's opinions. But it's my expectation level isn't Orlando Pace.
I'll say this: I trust Baldy more than our chat.
Yeah, no, Baldy backed you up. So I'm not.
Baldy's got my back.
I'm not going to quibble with it at all. Yeah. Just his bad plays look really bad. I think that's why we're having the chat reaction that we're having. But regardless of all of that, forget about Borum. Let's talk about the quarterback. I'm watching all these guys breaking it down. I watched Chase Daniel today, just showing, his however many plays that he went through. There was one play, Baldy, that just stood out to me where he does the can thing. So he's checking to a run. Herbert's on his left side. He moves. He's like, no. Let me move you over to the right side. It's 3rd and 6, and he reads it, gives it to him. Herbert picks up the first down, and we've heard. Luke Getsy talk about he is seeing things pre-snap way better now than he did, a year ago at this time. And that was like, to me, just there is an example of him doing it. If you're getting that, and we're seeing him also make better throws, and he had his best game as a Bear, I'd say, last Thursday too. I mean, this is all stuff to be excited about, right? It's a long way of saying I'm seeing what they're talking about with Justin, so I'm starting to get excited about the quarterback on a new level.
Well, I work with Chase, so I know how hard he works at it. Like, he's really getting inside the game. Look, the quarterback is really in charge of the run game, and it's really dependent on. It's just a numbers thing. Like, if you see the numbers in your favor to run the ball on 3rd and 6, you don't see that a lot. But if they're playing DJ Moore out here and Cole Kmet, they're playing these receivers, and they're not in the box playing the run, and there might be a guy spying on Justin, whatever. Like, you can see that, and the running back is clearly feeling it in the game, then make the call. Drew Brees did it throughout his career. Like, he was in charge of the run game. Brady was in charge of the run game. Not putting Justin in that category. But they were all little pikers at one point before they became Hall of Fame players. There's a growth curve for everybody. So that's a good thing. I mean, even like the touchdown to DJ, I think it was the first one. I mean, Washington blows the coverage. And, not everybody can see it. I mean, it's a Tampa 2 coverage, but the corner should get to the numbers and take that throw to the corner to DJ Moore away. And I think he sees the fact that the corner is not playing, he's not at the landmark. I think he sees the cover 2, the Tampa 2, and he sees the linebacker going down the middle. But I think he sees the blown coverage, and, the coverage dictates where you go with the ball. And so he took the shot to the end zone. Touchdown was great. But I think he saw that coverage too. So I think he's seen a lot more than maybe what he's seen earlier this year, and maybe at times last year.
Certainly seems like it's slowing down for him. And maybe I kind of likened it to a basketball player that needs to just get to the free throw line to see a couple go in. And maybe, yes, these last 2 defenses haven't been one of the better defenses in the league, but maybe that helped seeing it a little bit to get on track and do what he's capable of. To me, the funniest thing of the game was in the second half, they didn't have a running back. I mean, they're playing with Kari Blasingame, their fullback.
It's your guy.
And Cole Kmet told us that they had to tell him where to run on most plays. Like, they're keeping it as simple as possible, and they were able to not only hang on but extend the lead at the end. I mean, have you ever ran into a situation like that where you have a fullback in your backfield who doesn't really understand the playbook and try to get through a game like that?
Well, I have never played with a fullback that didn't know the plays. That's like kind of shocking. And I'm not saying Curry doesn't. He just hasn't run those plays. So, if you never repped it, it's basically you've never done it. And so, okay, where's the run fit here? Where am I? So, but I think he knew the plays. I mean, he ran the ball like he knew what he was doing. But it's a credit. It's a credit. Like, this stuff happens. I mean, you get shorthanded sometimes, and you're down to your third quarterback. You're down to your fourth center. I mean, this stuff happens in games, and it happens more frequently than people realize sometimes. So injuries can pile up during a game like it did to Rashawn and Khalil, but stuff happens. So they adjusted, and that's a good thing that they still came out on top.
Roshan, for those missing the news today, still in the concussion protocol, so we'll see if that changes before the end of the week. But right now you've got Deontay Foreman, you got Darrington Evans, who they just picked up off the Dolphins practice squad, running the football against the Vikings, which, Baldy, that brings me to Minnesota. They are, Brian Flores is blitz, 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 blitz. 61% is the actual number of how often they blitz. And the Vikings play the Chiefs way more competitive than the Bears did. So this is going to be a massive adjustment, I would think, in skill level. Even though the Commanders have some, Chase Young's no slouch here, but Danielle Hunter's in the backfield all the time, and he's being sent all the time. Well, how do you think this plays out as far as, like, if you're Matt Eberflus looking at what's coming here, you're Luke Getsy, how do you plan for this?
Well, there's blitzes, and then there's what Brian Flores is doing, which is basically lining up in a blitz zero look, where he's putting 6, depending on your formation, he's either putting 6 or 7 defensive players at the line of scrimmage. And he's playing 4 guys off your 4 receivers or 3 guys off your 3 receivers, whatever you're putting out there. And he's basically challenging you. He's challenging the protection. He's challenging the idea that, okay, if everybody comes, where's my hot? He's challenging your whole package. But he's been doing this now. He did this at Miami when they were 1-7. And he got him out of a deep crypt, and they ended up being in a playoff hunt at the end of the season. So he brought this to Pittsburgh last year. It's what he does. Now they got Mahomes a couple of times last week, but the Chiefs largely won the game because of their mentality. Like you can't just pack it in and play conservative. Like Mahomes on 4th and 1 from midfield threw a bomb, and Harrison Smith got defensive pass interference. And, it basically changed the game. But, they're going to get some. It's the old saying, like, sometimes you get the bull, sometimes the bull gets you. But you got to have a plan for it. So if it's 3rd and 8, like, really, and they're playing off and it's blitz and they bring everybody, Justin's got to know where he's going with the ball. And the receiver's got to know. Or if it's 3rd and 4 and they do it. I've seen these teams against this look. And Kansas City was in this case last week a couple of times. If it's 3rd and 4, I don't need receivers running 10-yard routes. I need them to get open as quickly as possible. So my quarterback's got time that they see it and I see it and we see it together, and you get the ball out of your hands. So down a distance is really important. Handling it up front, understanding blitz protection, who's going to be hot, who might come free, and where to go with the ball. This is a critical week of preparation because they can make you look bad. Now, the reason why they're doing it, honestly, they're not very good defensively, and they're trying to cover up for it. Their corners aren't very good, okay? They can't just go out there and do what the Chiefs do and just line up and play man coverage. And so they're basically telling you that we've got some weaknesses. Yeah, Danielle Hunter's a great player. Yes, Harrison Smith's a great player, but they don't have enough of them. And so that's basically why they're going to that look.
Yeah, Matt Eberflus said in his press conference today that, he was asked, are defenses adjusting now that they're seeing some of these deep balls? I think Justin Fields is like top 3 in the league with deep passes, 20 yards or more. And his answer was, well, not in the last game. They stuck with single high safety and one-on-one with DJ Moore, which to me played right into the hands of what the Bears can do best. So my question is, how do the Bears force teams into single high safety and one-on-one with DJ Moore going forward?
Well, what you do, it's just it's kind of cliche, but it's worth repeating in that you run a team out of cover 2, okay? And then you basically pass your way, into cover 2. So if you're in cover 2, you run the ball. Like make them pay for those 2 safeties being back. And then they start dropping the safety down. Now you're in single high. Now it's just like the 52-yard touchdown pass to DJ last week. You're 1-on-1 on the outside. The corner gambles. Next thing you know, DJ's dancing in the end zone. So that's basically the numbers game. They want to play 2 high safeties and protect against DJ and and the guys going deep, Darnell, whoever. You got to run them out of it, and that's where the run game comes in.
Take what the defense gives you.
Pretty much, but there's a chess match. I mean, you could disguise your cover 2 and roll the safety down, and then it's a question of timing. Can you hold the count long enough to see it, make the adjustment? Like, it goes up into the snap count sometimes, trying to figure out what's the best play, and that's a lot of that because the radio thing is turned off in Justin's head with 15 seconds to go. So some team's not going to show you what they're doing until there's 15 seconds or less on the clock. So there's a little bit of a chess match that still gets played up until the snap.
And it's exciting, by the way, that Fields clearly is seeing it a whole lot better, which has got to give him a ton of confidence, too. He feels like he knows what's coming. All this plays into his next level success, which, by the way, Baldy, takes me into the conversation that the city is having ad nauseum, especially my partner today who wants to talk about it on the show and off the show, which is, if the Bears get the number 1 pick, is there anything that Justin Fields can do that they won't take Caleb Williams? You said, big things about Caleb last week as far as, like, at 17, he was already elite. And who knows if Carolina is going to remain this bad, and who knows if the Bears, are going to have another turn for the worse and put themselves in that position as well. But could you – let's just say that this plays out and the Bears have the number 1 overall pick. And they were consulting you, could you see a scenario where you would say, like, if Justin continues to play like he's played the last 2 weeks, where you'd say, you know what, trade that pick for the King's ransom that you would get for it, and stay away from Caleb because you can build your entire roster basically with what you would get with that pick?
Well, there's a financial component to it. Look, if you got the first pick, you draft the best player. Carolina drafted Bryce Young this year. They should have drafted Jalen Carter. He's the best player. So, but regardless, you draft the best player, regardless of position, especially if he's just that much better than everybody else. But there's a financial component. You get 5 years. If you're in a position to draft Caleb Williams, you get 5 years to build around him. And you look at all of the teams that have won Super Bowls with quarterbacks on rookie contracts, going back to Joe Flacco and Russell Wilson and Patrick Mahomes. Like, these guys, there's a reason why they won Super Bowls. Like, yes, the quarterback came in and could play right away. But at the same time, they were able to really build around that quarterback with the financial component to it. And so it's not knocking Justin Fields. It's just a business decision if they're in that kind of a position. Justin Fields might be a top 5 quarterback at the end of the season. But are you going to go pay him $50 million and really have to subtract from other areas of your team without a pass rusher, without, elite defensive players that you need on this team? That's a big organization consideration.
Well, for the record, I told Mark I did not want to talk about this today because you have to understand, Baldy, with Fields in back-to-back weeks playing as great as he has, Bears fans get violently angry if you bring up this hypothetical.
Yeah, no, I get that. Like, ride the wave, let the kid play. And, like, I'm not here to tear him down, and I'm not here to chase him out of Hallis Hall. But if you're going to do the hypothetical, do the hypothetical. If you're asking me, draft the best player and build around the best player. That's what Indianapolis did with Peyton Manning, and it's what the good teams do. It's what Houston's doing with C.J. Stroud right now. And so you get 5 years to build your team before you have to make, or 4 years at least, before you have to make a big financial commitment.
Is it too early to say that the Panthers blew it not taking C.J. Stroud and going with Bryce, 5'9" Bryce Young?
It's too early. I saw Troy Aikman go 1-15, and when 2 years later he won his first Super Bowl. So it's too early, but it has not gone well. But their offensive performance up front around him is not good, and I thought they'd play a lot better than they had. They don't have, Adam Thielen is their best weapon to throw to, and he's probably a number 3 on your team. He's probably number 3 in Minnesota right now. So, that's, but not to knock Adam Thielen, but that's just where he's at in his career. So there's not a lot to work with right now.
Let's get into what I've been really interested about the last 2 weeks, and that is what is written on your board behind you, because it looks as long as my Taco Bell orders can be sometimes.
Well, I mean, that's saying a lot. I mean, I just have like a lot of sayings up there. People say certain things about, the game that I just like. Oh, that's a good phrase. I like that. I like that way that's put. And then, I got the schedule up there this week, next week.
I've
got whiteboards all over. I mean, I've got Steve Spagnuolo's cover 3 over here on my board. Like I got my hook defenders. I got my, my curl flat defenders. I mean, over here I've got all kinds of, information for, in proprietary information for different teams in the league. So it's really surround sound.
You're a football lifer, and this is why you're the best of the best. What is one of the footballs? Do you have one of the football sayings on hand that you can share with us?
Well, okay, in honor of Dick Butkus, okay, like that hurt me last Friday a great deal. We all grew up with Butkus, and so we have, he was the original gladiator. But, to honor Dick Butkus, I would take a linebacker saying, and it applies to TJ Edwards, whoever's playing, like slow till you know. Like you watch Urlacher and Briggs play linebacker in Chicago. That was a great tandem, but they didn't overrun plays. They spilled plays to one another, and at the end of the day, they were competing to who would get more tackles for the Bears, under that regime of Dick Jauron. But like slow till you know. Like you're no hurry. I see linebackers in this league, like it's a 100-meter dash as soon as the ball snapped, and they're nowhere near where they need to be. Like I see some linebackers literally, like Bobby Wagner, like he won't even move out of his stance, and all 21 other players are moving, and then he diagnoses the play, then he goes to make the play. So slow till you know would be one.
Slow till you know. I like it.
I mean, I sat with Dan Hampton doing post games for 7 years. I keep on bringing this up every now and then, but nothing annoyed him more than somebody who would leave their containment because they felt like they knew, but then they didn't. And then now you got somebody running free for 20 yards, and all you had to do was stand there, dude.
I hope the Danimal wasn't pounding one of those broken fingers on the table, trying to make that statement, man.
Oh, he was. He absolutely was, and it was partly terrifying. But that's why we love him.
Well, the guy that played against Mongo and Dan a couple different times, and if you see Dan, you can, verify this. I've never seen two guys talk every single play nonstop like it was a talk show and have more fun doing it than those two bastards.
Because they were – they were grizzly bears, but they
I
also
mean, it was like you knew like you're going to have to respond. You couldn't just like button your lips and let those guys just chatterbox you all game long, because some of the stuff was just funny,
They were super smart out there too. It's underrated. They weren't just like I'll kill you. They also had a lot going on upstairs.
Yeah, I had the pleasure one time working on an autograph show, being behind the scenes with Ed O'Bradovich and Dan Hampton, just sharing stories and talking. And I was like, hey, do you Matt Nagy was the first year, Nagy and they get to the playoffs. I'm like, hey, it's looking good. He goes, he doesn't know what he's doing. I was like, oh no.
he definitely said
hey,
that.
Man, nothing's better than just telling it like it is. And just straight talk. And that's all those guys knew.
Yeah, I wanted to say what does he know, but he's a Hall of Famer.
Baldy, you do the same every week with us. We really appreciate it. Awesome to have you today. Have a great rest of your week, brother.
All right, enjoy the weekend, guys. I'll talk to you next week.
Yep,
see you now.
Brian Baldinger leading us off on Wednesdays. It's always a great way to start.
We all silly like the mayor.